Chapter 1. Augusta, Maine. Where the Kennebec flows. Where the Kennebec River bends through the center of Maine, Augusta stands as a capital shaped by water, timber, war, statehood, and steady public purpose. It is not the largest city in the state, and it never tried to be. Its importance came from position, endurance, and history. The Kennebec gave Augusta a route into the interior, a source of power for mills, and a place where people could gather, trade, defend, and govern. Long before marble halls and legislative chambers rose above the river, this valley was already a meeting ground. The first people of the region were part of the Wabanaki world, especially the Kennebec or Norridgewock Abenaki people. They traveled the river by canoe, fished its waters, planted crops in season, and used the valley as part of a wider network of trails and trade. The Kennebec was not simply scenery. It was a road, a food source, and a living center of community. French missionaries and traders entered this world in the 17th century, followed by English settlement pressure from the coast. The river valley became part of the long contest between native peoples, French influence, and English colonial expansion. In 1628, English settlers established the Plymouth Colony trading post at Cushnock, near present-day Augusta. It was one of the earliest English trading posts in Maine, created to exchange goods with native communities and to take advantage of the river's access to the interior. The post did not create a city at once. The region remained contested and dangerous for many years, especially during the conflicts that marked the northern frontier of New England. Settlers came, left, and returned as war, disease, and shifting alliances changed life along the Kennebec. A more permanent English presence began in 1754 during the years of imperial struggle between Britain and France. That year, Fort Western was built on the east bank of the Kennebec as a fortified supply post connected to Fort Halifax farther upriver. Its blockhouse and wooden palisades helped protect British movement through the valley. In 1775, during the American Revolution, Benedict Arnold's expedition to Quebec passed through the area, using Fort Western as part of its difficult march north. The fort still stands, one of the oldest surviving wooden forts in the United States, and it gives Augusta a direct link to the military frontier of colonial America. After the Revolution, the settlement grew more steadily. The town was first known as Hollowell, then separated and became Harrington in 1797, before taking the name Augusta later that same year in honor of Augusta Dearborn, daughter of Henry Dearborn, a Revolutionary War officer who later served as Secretary of War. The new name gave the community a civic identity at a time when Maine itself was still part of Massachusetts. Farms spread across the hills, sawmills worked along the water, and river trade connected local families to larger markets. The movement toward Maine statehood changed Augusta's future. For many years, people in the District of Maine argued that their needs were too distant from Boston and the Massachusetts government. After the War of 1812 exposed the vulnerability of the Maine coast and strengthened the desire for local control, the push for separation grew stronger. In 1820, Maine entered the Union as the 23rd state under the Missouri Compromise. Portland first served as the state capital, but the question of a permanent seat of government remained unsettled. Augusta's location made it attractive. It stood inland from the coast, on a major river, and closer to the geographic center of the young state than Portland. In 1827, the legislature chose Augusta as Maine's capital. The decision was practical as much as symbolic. A capital on the Kennebec could represent the coastal towns, the river settlements, the farms, and the growing interior. It placed government in a city tied to the movement of logs, goods, and people, rather than in a seaport alone. The Maine State House became the visible sign of that decision. Construction began in 1829 using granite from nearby Hollowell. Charles Bulfinch, the noted architect who helped shape the Massachusetts State House and worked on the United States Capitol, designed the building. Completed in 1832, the State House stood on a rise west of the river, plain enough for a northern state that valued restraint, but dignified enough for public life. Its granite walls, columns, and dome gave Maine a seat of government that felt permanent. Later expansions changed its size and shape, especially in the early 20th century, but the building kept its central purpose. It became the place where Maine debated roads, schools, taxes, fisheries, forests, and the responsibilities of a state spread across difficult terrain. During the 19th century, Augusta grew through industry and transportation. The Kennebec carried timber down from the forests, and mills along the river turned natural resources into lumber, paper, and manufactured goods. Riverboats and later railroads linked the capital to Portland, Bangor, Boston, and beyond. The city became a place of legislators, lawyers, merchants, mill workers, clergy, teachers, and printers. Newspapers carried political arguments through the state, while the State House drew citizens to Augusta each year to petition, debate, and watch government at work. The city also reflected Maine's role in national events. During the Civil War, Augusta sent soldiers, supplies, and political leadership into the Union cause. Maine's governors and lawmakers worked from the capital while local families faced the cost of war. Memorials and public records from that era remind visitors that even quiet capitals carry national burdens. After the war, Augusta continued to modernize. New public buildings, churches, schools, and neighborhoods appeared, while the river remained the city's oldest line of continuity. Today, Augusta's history can still be read in its landscape. Fort Western recalls the colonial frontier. The Kennebec recalls native travel, trade, industry, and migration. The State House recalls the long struggle for statehood and the decision to govern from the center rather than the edge. Downtown streets and old mill buildings show the city's working past, while the Capitol grounds remind visitors that public life is built over generations. Its importance is easy to miss if one looks only for size. Augusta's strength lies in the way different eras remain visible at once. The old fort, the riverbank, the State House, and the neighborhoods around them form a compact record of Maine's development. The city shows how government grows from geography, how a river can become a road, and how a modest inland community can become the public heart of a large and rugged state. That is why Augusta belongs in this journey. It teaches that a capital does not need to dominate a state. Sometimes it only needs to gather its memory and keep it faithfully. Augusta's strength comes from the many roles it has carried across time. It began as a native river corridor, became a trading post, grew into a fortified frontier settlement, developed into a working river town, and finally rose as the capital of a state built on independence and resolve. Along the Kennebec, where the water passes the State House dome and continues toward the sea, Maine's story remains visible in stone, timber, current, and memory. Augusta does not need grandeur to prove its importance. Its power rests in service, steadiness, and the lasting dignity of a place that has helped guide its people for centuries.